Welcome to an absolutely picturesque day in Transylvania, where today we're not hunting vampires, but we are chasing a different type of carnage, man and motorbike, attempting to survive 400 miles of the sport that they call hard enduro. Now this is a multi-day, multi-stage rally, which means at the end of 4 days of riding, the man who can navigate the trials and tribulations of this place called Transylvania the fastest, he will be our champ. Now, do you smell that? That's a smell of two-stroke and the ability to ride a dirt bike pretty much anywhere you want to in this glorious country. And this is Romaniacs, and you're watching the Red Bull Signature Series. I would like to welcome you to Romania, directly in the heart of Transylvania. Sam Masakela here, your host of the Red Bull Signature Series. And you know, traveling through this region, across the plains and into the forest over the Carpathian Mountains, it is very easy to let your imagination just run wild with the lore and the legend of this, the land of one Count Dracula. But today, we're actually here to witness new feats of supernatural ability, as these riders of Romaniacs are tested with rocks, rain, rivers, hills, logs, and even a stage through an abandoned Ceausescu-era factory. For more, we're gonna check in with my friends Mr. LEADERBOARD and Ricky Johnson. Guys?
Sal, thank you. And as you can see, the riders are starting to gear up and gather at the start line for the final day of competition.
These riders have to gather their strength from the past 3 days of the most excruciating motorcycle race in the world.
And Ricky, you talk about excruciating. They've already completed about 300 miles of some of the toughest hard enduro riding in the world, and they all start each day 5 minutes apart, and they're timed through the course.
At the end, the quickest rider with the total of 4 days will be the champion.
We're going to start by having a look at the action from the first day here in Romania, which takes the riders into the forest surrounding Sibiu.
We have a lot of big names: Graham Jarvis, Johnny Walker, Paul Bolton, Andreas Littenbeckler, and Chris Birch, all unbelievable studs.
First to hit the course was Bolton, who was the fastest rider in the prologue qualifying stage. He really is the working class hero of the hard enduro world and may hold a normal 9-to-5 job through the week, but nobody can question Paul Bolton's commitment to the sport. Consistent finishes are his trademark, most recently finishing 5th at the Red Bull Hare Scramble in Austria.
He's not yet managed to break onto the podium in Romania, but his best is a 4th place finish in 2011. He's finished 5th 3 times. Definitely contender.
Back on the course, on board with Bolton, and next to start will be the man to beat, Graham Jarvis.
The man to beat is right, Lee. They call him the silent assassin. Inside the circle, they call him the king. This guy sees the matrix. He sees things on the track that nobody else can see.
Graham Jarvis is virtually a force of nature, having won just about everything there is to win in the world of hard enduro, having finally conquered his nemesis, the Red Bull Hare Scramble in 2013. He also counts 4 wins here in Romania.
Jarvis has a balance of skill and speed that's almost unmatched, and so much experience, you can't match that as well.
Next on course was the KTM star Johnny Walker.
We keep calling him the newcomer, but this kid has arrived. He does phenomenal things on a bike.
For the veterans of the sport here at Romaniacs, all bets are off. Johnny Walker is on the rise. The 23-year-old isn't just skilled, He's smart. He knows just how tough a 4-day event will be on him physically, and he's been training hard to prepare.
Johnny just didn't win the Ayresburg Hare Scrambles. He dominated every corner, every jump. He was on point.
GoPro onboard time with Johnny Walker.
Walker just doesn't want to win. He wants to take the crown from Jarvis. As we listen to this two-stroke, he's got the right balance of speed and patience.
From one guy where everything seems to go right to one guy who can't seem to catch a break, Andreas Lettenbichler.
Anything can go wrong with these races, and for him, it's been that way lately. But as a racer and a true competitor, he'll be back.
Germany's hard enduro expert is no stranger to the podium, but despite incredible rides at the last 4 hare scrambles, his best finish has been second.
The long-distance endurance aspect of this race is unbelievable, and someone like Lettenbichler knows what it takes to get through all 4 days.
But yet more bad luck for Letty this year, riding injured and suffered a bad fall at an exhibition ride just a few weeks ago.
Riding injured is unbelievable. This race is so much pain all on its own. Here we're watching Paul Bolton struggle going down this wash. The energy that a man uses in this race, I can't even imagine. I race motocross and supercross, but nothing like this.
Oh, sorry, Bob.
That's Graham Jarvis, who overtook Bolton for the lead. But look who's also joined the party. Yes, Johnny Walker. Here he comes.
What I love about this is these guys even have the patience to say, I'm sorry when I ran into you when you're blocking the trail. These guys are much more polite than motocross and supercross guys that are pissed off if you rub them just a little bit in turn 1.
So Bolton got going, but Walker has the momentum.
Watching them go through here, listen to the two-stroke and how much torque these bikes have. You see Paul stuck there, Johnny squeaks by, and if you notice the difference in he's looking around for different lines, Jarvis is going one way, Walker's going another.
Here's Tina Dixon with an update.
Well, guys, first day of racing is underway out here. Now, the biggest concern was it rained overnight, and if you look around me, this place is covered in grass, and if you feel it, it is extremely slick. So Johnny said it's going to take about 10 to 20 minutes to get used to the slick grass and find the right speed that he needs. But guys, remember, it's the first day of racing. Anything could happen.
Tina, thank you. Jarvis and Walker battled for the lead through one of the day's most iconic sections.
And what makes this so much fun is the terrain is different all the time. Here they're racing through an actual mine. Later they're going to be going through a factory. They go through the woods of Transylvania. It is the best and most fun race you can possibly imagine.
Up, down, left, right, wherever Jarvis goes, Walker right on his tail.
If you have a rider like Jarvis in front of you, you're watching everything from his body position to his throttle, where he's accelerating. So Johnny Walker is doing everything absolutely right, and he's ahead on corrected time.
Critical in a section that is, in fact, far more challenging than it looks.
They call this section the mini hare scramble because a lot of the characteristics are a lot like Ayresburg. But you got to remember, this is a 4-day event, not one.
The smart riders will pick their lines carefully through the obstacles, mindful of the fact that this is just day 1. Suffering an injury here will slow your pace for the rest of the event, or worse.
One of the terms I use in Mexico is make time by not losing time. If you can keep moving forward here in Romaniacs, you have a good chance of being on the podium, so keep your mistakes to a minimum.
GoPro on board with Walker, and he goes for it.
I love the patience of Johnny Walker right now. They're going back and forth with Jarvis, but right now he's decided to take the lead and get out in front.
Yep, the new leader at the Red Bull Romaniacs, Johnny Walker, aboard his KTM and pulled a lead immediately over Jarvis.
But Jarvis is the old veteran. If we watch him here, he's still got his goggles on. He's watching, making sure what Johnny Walker is doing, and he's keeping him in sight.
Approaching the finish line, one final water crossing, and then a climb for Walker.
Those 302 strokes with tons of torque, but they still rev, and it's got to be awesome to smell that two-stroke oil.
So winner of day 1, Johnny Walker, and this is Graham Jarvis finishing the day out. Here's Tina with the winner.
Johnny, you told me after the prologue you had no interest in leading. Well, after day one, you are the new leader.
Yeah, I'm happy. You know, that's what I wanted to do today. I pushed hard the first half and caught Graham in the first half, and then we caught Bolton in the second. So, you know, it was tricky, but, you know, try and make a break was hard because it was so fast. But, you know, to get to the finish with each other, so it's good.
Well, day one, guys, it's just begun.
Tina, you're right, a long way to go. So at the end of day one, the leaderboard looked like this. Walker leading over Jarvis with Bolton, Lettenbichler and Chris Birch rounding out the top 5. Start of day 2 for Romaniacs and the riders getting ready for another 100 miles of racing.
You know that Jarvis only has one thing on his mind, and that is catching and passing Johnny Walker.
And Johnny Walker, yep, the winner of the previous day, reseeded to first on course and will lead the rest of the field onto the trail.
If you consider day one a warm-up, well, that's over. They're leaving civilization and going deep into the Carpathian Mountains. The race is on.
The race is on, and Walker the first to go.
I'm so impressed with Johnny's commitment to training. He's not just a young, talented rider, but takes his training very, very serious.
GoPro on board with Walker. Approaching the foothills. And doing the chasing, Graham Jarvis.
Jarvis has found himself behind early on, but this guy has won so many championships, and there's a reason why they call him the man or the king. He's going to play it patient and try to chase down Johnny Walker.
So much mileage to run as we go back on board with Walker. Remember, this is a 4-day event, and this is just day 2.
The riders have GPS that kind of give them a route on where to go, but you got to remember, they're still following some trails, so there's some shortcuts and different lines along the way.
So as Bolton began his second day of competition, knowing full well he had a lot of ground to make up, he did ride with the satisfaction of knowing he was the fastest in the prologue. And you want to see this as he takes us for a run for our test drive. Take a listen. This is extraordinary.
Gotta get through here. Whoa, we just hit that one pretty hard. But all right. Bit of a bad line through there coming out here now. Get this right. That was rubbish, by the way. Get it back now. Up with the seesaw. It's never over. Wheel rims. Massive accident. Don't give up. Never give up. Little jumpers. Pop onto that, turn sharp. Full gas now. Not overcooking this bit. Bit of a jump. Cut the corner a bit there if we can. Whoa, she's washed out. Pushing that frontal limb. Slippy as hell, these cobbles. Just gotta get the drive on. Final jump. Bit of a naughty one, but there you go. Bit of a crash, but not to worry. It's got a bit keen in the logs.
Oh, Paul Bolton, you're our hero. And with that, he was the quickest. Back on course now, Jarvis, who's closing in on Walker.
Johnny's got his work cut out for him if he wants to keep Jarvis behind him, but being the leader puts him in a difficult situation.
Especially with one of the day's most challenging sections coming up, a rocky water crossing that's surprisingly deep in certain places.
Johnny Walker, our leader, is down, and you can see how deep that water is. It looks like he has flooded his bike, so he has to go through a whole process. It's not a matter of just kick-starting a bike and going. You have to do a lot of work before you can get that motor running again. This is tragic.
That is a bad blow for Walker. Meanwhile, GoPro on board for Bolton, and a scare there with some wildlife. And Bolton is desperate to keep his place in the top 3.
Looking out for livestock, but you got to remember, Bolton was the rider that put it all together and was able to win that prologue. Here we see Jarvis taking a slightly different line, goes around. As I said before, this man sees the matrix.
And he had no idea what happened to Walker, but definitely took a smarter line. This is Bolton coming to the water crossing.
Slightly different lines, but if you notice, the riders are using a little education and following Jarvis. Jarvis had that line up to the left, keeping them dry.
Wade Young did a nice job there. Jarvis continues his pursuit. Let's find out more about Walker. Here's Tina.
At the service point, I caught up with Johnny Walker's mechanic, where he said Johnny had problems earlier with one of the rivers where water actually went over the handlebars. Now Johnny had to stop, work on his bike, replace the spark plug, lost about 3 minutes, and when I saw him ride by, he looked so frustrated, as Graham Jarvis has now caught up on time and now riding on Johnny's heels.
Yes, Tina, Jarvis definitely closed in on Walker. And this event already has a very different feel to Hare Scramble in Austria, much closer. Let's take a look at some highlights from day 2 action.
One of the things that we have to remember, Lee, this is not just for the pros, this is for every man. You can sign up for this if you qualify for the event. But this event is going to push riders to the edge, physically, mentally, and emotionally. As you can see, we have trees, water, roots. Some of the riders can get help from outside, but it is going to take you to the edge of disaster.
Back on course, and you can see from the GoPro onboard, Graham Jarvis, just how close he is to our leader.
This is exactly what Jarvis wanted. He can see the leader, and he is so patient. But if you watch Johnny Walker get stuck here, Graham looks around, looking to the right, looking to the left, finds a new line. He's going to back up because this is a game of inches. So while Johnny's stuck in the corner, Jarvis is going to look for another way around.
And the reason there are riders ahead of Johnny Walker and Graham Jarvis, they are taking a shorter course. They take an easier course if you wish.
And Jarvis shoots up the outside and gets by Johnny Walker, and now he is physically leading Romaniacs.
Quick, decisive calls are part of the strategy in hard enduro. This is Wade Young.
Wade Young happened to see the same line that Jarvis took, decided I'm going to go around these guys. Now, getting a little help from the spectators.
And that is allowed. That is legal in Red Bull Romaniacs.
Allowed, it is necessary. If you're on a bike, or if you and I were on a bike, we never get it through. We need a helicopter. But these riders have to rely on spectators to help them finish Romaniacs.
And out of the woods, heading to the river, and then heading to the line, Johnny Walker, just trying to save as much of his lead that he can. This is damage control.
Could you imagine, Lee, changing your spark plug, flipping the bike upside down, pumping the crankcase, and still holding a lead over Jarvis on day 2?
Graham Jarvis can see the finish line, and Walker taking day 1, Jarvis took day 2.
A win on day 2 has got to do so much for Jarvis mentally and physically. That will put him bike number 1 on day 3.
So at the end of the second day of competition, the overall order sees Johnny Walker in the lead over Graham Jarvis, but by less than 1 minute. Wade Young is up to 3rd. Andreas Lettenbichler is ahead of Bolton. Now here's Tina with Johnny Walker for his thoughts.
2 days down, Johnny, 2 more to go. What do you anticipate them to be like?
I don't know really, I hope now I'm setting off 2nd tomorrow behind Graham, it's going to be the same again. I'm going to chase him and then I'm going to just follow him again and try and make a break towards the end. But, I think we're really close now. He's beat me and I beat him, so, we must be like on the same 2nd kind of thing.
Guys, it's going to be a battle.
It has already been fabulous. And this is day 3 of 4 of competition here in Transylvania.
This is where strength, endurance, and experience pays off, Lee. They got 2 more days of racing. If you've been here before, you know what the beating is. If you've never been here before, you haven't a clue.
Today's stage will take the riders even deeper into the Carpathian Mountains. Along the way, they'll see several technical challenges culminating in a ride through an abandoned factory right before the day's finish. Having won day 2, Jarvis is reseated and 1st on course.
Well, Lee, if I have my choice, I do not want to be Jarvis. I don't want to be the guy setting the pace that is actually behind on time. I want to be Johnny Walker, who can follow the lines and work his way up and catch that leader.
Jarvis's GoPro onboard shows that it doesn't take long for this single track to become very complex and very challenging. Johnny Walker. Day 3 begins.
You can see him anticipate the start. He's ready to race. He's in great shape. And now he can watch Jarvis's lines and pick where he thinks was a good line or a mistake.
First climb out of the way for Jarvis. He's riding between the peaks, between the technical sections at full speed.
This is like racing in Baja where you're racing time itself. Jarvis does not know how far back Johnny Walker is or how fast he's going, so he has to race fast but not make one mistake.
One of the few North Americans in this race is Canadian Corey Greffundum. With more on him, here's Tina Dixon.
Well, guys, how do you prepare for an event when you get called up a week prior to it? Now, that's exactly what happened to North American favorite Corey Greffunder when he received the phone call to replace an injured athlete. Now, on that first day, it was rough for him. He admitted he made a wrong line choice, lost a lot of time, but since then said he's feeling better on the bike. Each day, he's been getting enough food, enough rest, been learning something new every day as we near the end. And Corey, hey, he could make a statement here.
Tina, thank you. And look at what happened between our top 2.
Johnny has not only caught Graham Jarvis, but he has actually increased his lead. So is he going to sit behind him or is he going to pass him? It's kind of a young bull, old bull. Let's see what plays out.
And knowing that he has that advantage on time, he's doing exactly what he needed to do. Coming up on one of those technical challenges now, a water crossing with nothing between our top 2.
Johnny Walker has had some trouble with water the day before, so let's see what he does. He takes one line to the right. Jarvis decides, well, I'm going to the left.
Last time we saw this happen, it came out advantage Jarvis, right?
Exactly, and if you notice, Jarvis a little more experience. Johnny Walker doing the smart thing. Let's follow that past champion over and make it out and chase him back down. He gave up physical lead, but he's still ahead on time.
Seeming to have trouble with the water in the opening days of Red Bull Romaniacs, but Johnny Walker knows that he has time on his side. And just behind the top 2, the young South African, Wade Young.
Wade is so impressive. This is only his second attempt at Red Bull Romaniacs, and already he's looking at a podium. Unbelievable effort by this young South African.
And it didn't really matter what time Johnny Walker lost over that water crossing because he's already got Jarvis back in sight.
Johnny Walker's in a perfect spot. He can watch every line, every throttle response, every body angle that Graham Jarvis is doing. And what better guy to have in front of you than the guy they call the king?
GoPro on board with Jarvis. Pressure was on the 4-time winner because nearing the end of the day was one of the most challenging portions of the course, an abandoned factory.
As Jarvis goes into this factory, watch the technique. It is impeccable because he has to go from racing in the woods to man-made obstacles. Here he goes into a staircase and navigates it perfectly.
Johnny Walker on approach to the factory entrance.
Johnny Walker heading in, not knowing how far ahead Jarvis is, so he has to be clean. Now here we see Jarvis gets through there impeccable, doesn't make a mistake, but listen to this. Jarvis looks up, and I think he feels that it's Johnny right behind him.
This is Wade Young.
You talk about this as a game of seconds and a game of inches. Here we see Young get a little bit hooked up. Right here. 1, 2, 3 attempts, backs up, and away he goes.
Now Paul Bolton's turn to attack the factory.
Paul Bolton, no fender. Obviously, he has some fun in the woods, but here's Johnny Walker. He comes in, he overshoots the turn. 1001, 1002. He's still stuck on the staircase. 1005, 1006, 1007. This is the kind of stuff that will frustrate you. 1008, 1009, 1010.
So is that a difference in chassis geometry and turning circle between the KTM and the Husqvarna, or simply that Jarvis did it better?
I think Johnny Walker was behind the 8 ball and he came in a little bit fast and overshot the turn. This is one of those places where you do not want to make a mistake, and I keep saying it, but make time by not losing time.
And for the second day in a row, Graham Jarvis sees the finish first. And look at him, watchful eye on just how far back Johnny Walker was.
Johnny Walker made a couple of mistakes, and we got the young bull and the old bull. You can see the frustration on his eyes, but he still has the physical lead.
Wade Young in the conveyor chute, almost at the end and having some fun with it.
Guy's got enough nerve to pull wheelies when he's got about an inch on either side of his bike.
He's an exciting rider. At the end of day 3, Tina caught up with Jarvis.
Well, Graham, every time I saw you ride today, Johnny was right next to you. What's the dynamic like between you two?
Well, he seemed, I just made a mistake early on, and then he caught me up. And then I was just trying to lose him, but I just couldn't do it. I'd get a bit of a gap, but then I'd look round and he's back on my tail. So just got 30 seconds on him at the end, so it all helps. Main thing is I'm enjoying it and riding well, enjoying riding Husqvarna and loving it.
All right, have fun tomorrow. Thanks for your time. All right, guys.
Tina, thank you. 3 down, 1 to go. The final day of competition is ahead. Johnny Walker still in command with Jarvis and Young trailing him for the remaining podium spots. Bolton has overtaken Lettenbichler for 4th. Having completed 3 extremely challenging days of competition here in Transylvania, fighting their way through both natural and man-made obstacles, the riders are gearing up for the final day of racing.
Lee, it's not just a battle against the course or the other riders, it's against exhaustion. It is 3 days into a 4-day race. They're about 300 miles down.
Johnny Walker is your current leader with Graham Jarvis behind him in second. Wade Young, Paul Bolton and Andreas Lettenbichler round out the top 5 riders who have made it this far. Today's stage will take the riders back through the Carpathian Mountains, ending with an epic climb back near the event headquarters in Sibiu. Along the way, a combination of high-speed sections and technical climbs will sort out the final finishing order. Already on course, this is your current leader, KTM's Johnny Walker.
Johnny Walker on day 4 needs to ride smart, not make a mistake. He needs to run consistent. Even if Jarvis catches him, Jarvis has to pull a big lead, so Walker has to just ride his own race.
And we can't say enough about maintaining stamina late in this race.
Exactly, a 4-day long endurance race, you have to pull everything that you have together. So right now, riders look at this, they sort of get a breath of fresh air because now they can see the end. They know at the end of today, the race is over. But the race is not over yet for Johnny Walker because he knows he has one of the best enduro riders behind him in Graham Jarvis. As we watch him go through here, people might wonder, why is his power so low? What he's doing is managing his traction and doing an unbelievable job.
And the man doing the chasing, as Ricky mentioned, is Husqvarna's Graham Jarvis, a 4-time winner of this event.
Jarvis is behind the 8 ball. He has to go for broke and hope that Johnny Walker has a small mistake. Johnny made one in day 2, but it doesn't look like he's going to make one on day 4.
Remember, this man has won this event the last 3 years in succession.
Lee, I love watching his body style. If you notice, his legs are a little more extending, leaning into the power, leaning into the force. He's riding so smooth and conserving energy. This guy is going to be a threat at the end of the day.
You saw Walker here earlier. Now Jarvis begins his time in the forest. 3rd overall, this is South Africa's Wade Young.
Looking at Wade Young, a lot bigger than Jarvis, but using the same riding style. Standing up, sitting down, relaxing, using his height and leverage to help save energy.
And with more insight on that, here's Sal.
Nearly 400 punishing miles over 4 days. That's what make up the hard enduro rally that is Romaniacs. Now that's a lot of ground to cover and of course, a lot of room for error. So what does it take to stay on track and endure an event like this? The combination of mind, body, machine, tools, tactics, and remembering just a few rules will get you to the final finish line. Maybe.
Her beauty is a tiger. Be careful, make sure that she doesn't bite. Won't you help me find the key tonight? I say yes, you say no. Want to love you when the lights turn down. Oh, you
Păi încolo-s munții, în partea asta la întâi, mama dracului, este dealul, aici sunt turiști ăștia care...
When I say yes, you say no. Want to touch you when the sun goes down. Sun goes down.
And Ricky, I like the fact the first and last rules are the same.
So maybe that's the reason why I never raced this race.
It's Lee Diffie here with Ricky Johnson and Tina Dixon, and we are in the thick of it on the final day of competition. And back up front, the leader, Johnny Walker, in one of the most technical sections over the 4 days.
You can see where his height really helps him out. He sprawls his feet from side to side. Johnny's about 6'3", a whole bunch of legs, and that really helps him. But here we take a look at Jarvis. He comes down, goes up the higher line, slightly different, but it is a very steep descent as he rolls off here.
When you race motocross and supercross, being decisive was paramount. But for these guys, they're doing it literally by the second.
Every second, every inch, they have to make the right decision, because if you get slightly to the left or to the right, as you can see, they're on this slick, watery surface. If they pick the wrong line, they're not going to get any traction. But Jarvis is the king of finding the right line. It's a game of inches. I love the way Jarvis backs up, takes a little bit of a break, grabs his thoughts, and then goes.
And for his lack of experience in comparison to Graham Jarvis, Wade Young has been phenomenal.
Wade Young goes back to the line that Jarvis took, but takes a different approach at it. Gets off to the bike to the side, does not want to endo, but now grabs too much front brake, and over he goes, down. It wasn't really a hard crash, but it was definitely hard on the bike. One of the great things about these new motorcycles is electric start. We see Young here, gets up, hits the electric start, gets the bike going. With more on him, here's Tina.
The young South African Wade Young, remember this is only his second year competing. For 2013, on that first day, he just did not know what to expect, went out way too hard, and finished the event in 8th place. For 2014, on that first day, he paced himself, and that allowed him to make a huge push on that second day. Wade Young could potentially finish up on the podium here at Romaniacs at just the age of 18.
Tina, that would be awesome. Ricky, what went wrong here?
He's off to the side, grabs a little bit too much front brake. That is past vertical. It goes over the top. The bike takes a hard hit, but he avoids it getting off to the side, so he did everything right in a bad situation.
So Young back on his bike and away, and here comes Paul Bolton, who has been in 4th the majority of the time.
I love watching the riders look side to side, looking for different lines, and now both Paul Bolton has taken the same line as Jarvis. Now he gets up to the top. Does he ride it, or does he go off to the side like Young? He tries something a little bit different, drops the back wheel, a much safer route, rolls the bike down. So as far as safety is concerned, Bolton has it covered.
Corey Graffunder and Chris Birch also making tough decisions. Bolton almost clear.
Bolton getting stuck with his front wheel, and Graffunder doing the right thing. My father used to yell at me when I was a kid, you can't pass somebody if you follow them, and Graffunder did the right thing, took a different line, better or worse.
And former winner of Romaniacs, Chris Birch, falling in behind. This is Andreas Lettenbichler.
Andreas showing superhuman strength, currently running 5th on day 4. It's one thing to come into Romaniacs completely healthy, but he came in injured.
That's the sound of Graham Jarvis's Husqvarna chasing Johnny Walker. The GoPro on board. What a view.
You see the two champions going back and forth. Now this looks like they're just riding through the woods, but look at the angle of the trees. It's not easy to get up there, and now trying to pass somebody who's the fastest rider in the woods right now.
Fastest rider in the woods is Walker, and perhaps the most exciting young rider in the world of hard enduro. The riders have arrived at the major service stop of the day, and here's how they stack up. Walker's lead over Jarvis is shrinking, while Wade Young seems to have a lock on 3rd. The service stop marks the halfway point in the ride to the finish back near Sibiu. A quick rest is all the riders will get before heading back out to the next set of challenges. And as the current leader, Johnny Walker is first in and first out.
The pace is unbelievable. This little break gives them a chance to look over the bike, check things. They can't change tires, but they can rest, get a little fluids, a little food, and away they go.
Let's climb on board Walker's KTM. Quick blast through that ravine. And then up onto the road to start yet another tough forest climb. With more from the pits, here's Tina.
Guys, each day there is one service point along the track where the riders are required to stop for a small period of time. Now, the mechanics are allowed to do small, minor adjustments on the bike, tighten bolts, things like that. However, they are not allowed to change any tires. But at these service points, the riders get a chance to take a break, check their times against some of the other competitors, refuel their bodies, and refuel their bikes. Guys?
Tina, it's so critical, and nobody knows that better than the 4-time winner of Romaniacs, Graham Jarvis. How does he play it from here, Ricky? Playing catch-up.
Lee, you've heard the term running from a tiger. You don't want to run too fast and get tired and have the tiger catch you. You don't want to run too slow and have him catch you either. So right now, Graham has to run a flawless race, but run very, very fast to catch that tiger and Johnny Walker.
And remember, 4 days of competition over just grueling ground. And he now gets through the ravine and onto the road, but there's tough stuff ahead for Graham Jarvis.
Well, the benefit here is he can see where Walker went, so this is the benefit of being the second rider on course. And we don't know what treacherous ground is in front of him, so anything can still happen. This race is not over.
And these guys don't get to study the route. What they see for the first time. Paul Bolton. He's held a solid 4th place for a long time.
Behind him, we see Wade Young ready to pounce, but Paul Bolton starting without goggles. This is one of those things that he might want a little more air into his helmet. It is day 4.
About to begin that technical uphill challenge, and a podium may not be out of reach yet for Bolton. He's ridden very consistently. Still on course and still in a top 5 position is Germany's Andreas Littenbichler, who has been fighting through pain to make good progress. For more on him, here's Tina.
Andreas Littenbichler is always a threat here at Romaniacs, but this year he's not coming into the event 100%. He told me about 4 weeks ago he got hurt in an exhibition. He expressed concern before the race even started that he was not going to be able to finish. Well, after spending some time on the trail, his tune has changed. He's looking like a top contender, and Andreas even riding with a smile on his face.
So determined. Thanks, Tina. Now, despite Graham Jarvis's best efforts, he's still trailing leader Johnny Walker. Wade Young looks in good shape to earn his first podium here in Romania in only his 2nd attempt. Starting to close in on the finish as the riders weave their way back through the Carpathian Mountains on course for Sibiu.
We haven't heard a lot about Chris Birch, currently sitting 6th. This veteran is running some unbelievable lines, very smooth, very calculated. Sitting 6th is nothing to be ashamed of. He's doing a great job.
With hard enduro, people always think naturally about the extreme elements, but he is showing great poise here, being very delicate in great rhythm.
Once again, make time by not losing time. Chris Birch using his strength, his size, and his technique to his advantage.
Let's go back up front. Here's our leader, Johnny Walker, aboard the Red Bull KTM.
Johnny Walker's in a perfect spot. He knows that he has the person that's in 2nd place behind him, but he also is ahead of him on corrected time. Let's listen to the finesse of this young champion. When climbing hills this steep, you cannot use a lot of RPM. What that does is break the tire loose, and you end up basically spinning yourself into a hole. Johnny Walker using his size, strength, and technique to get up these hills. And a lot of times, inches is what you need, Lee.
It's fascinating how in sync the balance between throttle, brake application, rear wheel, it's incredible.
Look at the angle of the trees. You got to realize how steep this hill is. There's a reason why Johnny Walker's hanging off the side of the bike towards the mountain, because if he high sides and goes down that hill, that bike is not going to stop for a couple 100 feet. They're traversing back and forth on a hill that's probably about a 70 to 80% incline, so you cannot make one mistake or you're going to fall for a long time.
So you've seen how Johnny Walker just did it. Now it's 2nd place man and 4-time winner Graham Jarvis. Let's take a ride with the GoPro on board.
The thing to notice when you're watching Jarvis, the camera is on his helmet, so he's looking side to side, always looking for a different line. This is a situation where his height is going to hurt him versus Walker. So a lot of times, Graham Jarvis cannot touch the ground. So what does he do? He gets off the side of the bike and actually walks it up the hill because he can't reach the other side of the ground.
One thing that's happening behind Graham Jarvis is the youngster, Wade Young of South Africa, has made up considerable time on the man in second.
Watch this technique. Graham throws it into a purposeful high side to get him to the high side of the mountain, then away he goes and up the hill. Awesome technique.
As you can see on the map, the riders have refueled and are on the home stretch back to Sibiu with only a couple of technical challenges remaining.
Here's Johnny Walker on another one of the great obstacles here at Romaniacs, the wall. This is going to start the stage.
A little further back is the youngster Blake Goodside, who's made up considerable time today, running 9th.
As we were watching Blake's interview with Sal, I noticed his hands are completely taped up, but do you see? He's got a giant smile on his face, a lot of patience. This kid is going to be a star.
He's actually ahead of Wade Young, but Wade's still 3rd on overall time.
Now Graham Jarvis on the wall. Right now he's in a bad spot. He has to hope that Johnny Walker has something go wrong, and he has to give 100%. Two things is hard to do here at Romaniacs.
Back to the hill climb, Wade Young aboard his Red Bull KTM. Sits in good spot and that podium is not too far away. He's followed by Philip Scholes, who's currently in 7th on overall time.
This is one of the situations that I was telling you, Lee, is that the height and size can help you and hurt you. Remember, you're carrying a body that's, with Wade, probably about 30 pounds more than Jarvis. So sometimes it helps you, sometimes it hurts you.
Wade Young now attacking the wall. He's made very few mistakes thus far, and more of the same here. Dispatched without drama. Nice work.
Great job by Wade, carrying a great pace. This young rider, so strong.
The riders are now approaching the final challenges at the finish area, and the spectators are ready to cheer them on.
You look at these cliffs, the riders get up on top, no problem, they just balance it. Their harmony between their clutch and throttle and body is unreal.
The switchbacks, another challenge right near the very end.
Paul Bolton on the wall, currently running 4th, doing a great job, very consistent, but you can see a lot of fatigue in that rider already. Here's Graham Jarvis up another one of the small walls, balances, the wheel barely spins. It's like a Sunday ride for these guys. Unbelievable.
He makes the switchbacks look as easy as what Walker did. Here is the injured Andreas Lettenbichler still going at the end of the 4th day.
My hat's off to this guy, a veteran who's been here so many times before, but riding injured and still doing a great job.
Switchbacks, and it's time for Wade Young.
I love watching these riders. As they roll, they look up, they give an assessment, roll up a 60-foot cliff, balance on top. Just another day on the bike.
And this is it, Ricky, the final climb before the finish.
And wasting no time is our leader, Johnny Walker. He comes down, assesses it, and it looks a little bit slippery, Lee.
Muddy and slick and incredibly steep. This is a make or break moment for every rider.
Johnny loses a little traction about 1/3 of the way up. This hill's about 500 meters, roughly 2 football fields, and Johnny gets stuck and down he goes.
Now he's ahead, and he has time on his side, but not a whole lot of time.
Well, but the good thing is that Jarvis is behind him, and Jarvis has to pass him in the process, and that's going to be a hard thing to do.
That's all ahead for this man here, who has won a couple of days, but has been second the entire way. And if you wanted proof of just how steep this hill is, look at the human chain needed to help the Romaniacs leader up this final climb.
And you watch Johnny helping in the back. What he does is he grabs the wheel and then he pushes it forward. Grabs the wheel and pushes it forward. And as he starts to go up a little ways further, the spectator starts the bike and is actually pushing the bike while it's rolling, and then Johnny just assists from the back.
Now where you see the Red Bull hoop, that's not the final, that's not the finish. And outside help, spectator help, is allowed in Red Bull Romaniacs.
Once again, it's not allowed. It is absolutely necessary.
Walker's exhausted.
Here we can hear the bike rolling. We see Johnny's keeping his hands out of the back wheel, trying to get to the bike to the top. And at this point, he realizes that he's cleared the hardest obstacle and still is physically ahead of Jarvis.
Not by much, but the most important thing is that he is ahead.
We're watching Graham Jarvis. Now remember, he still has to clear the most difficult obstacle of the race.
On his way to the finish is Johnny Walker. Never having won Romaniacs before, aboard his Red Bull KTM, one final water hazard. And the 2014 Red Bull Romaniacs champion is Johnny Walker.
Johnny Walker's done an awesome job all 4 days. You know, he looks like a pleasant young man, but that man is a gunslinger and a natural-born killer on a motorcycle.
And the four-time winner Jarvis is trying to defend his second place where he's been the entire journey. And he's looking better here than Walker.
But see, notice that he can't touch the ground. He has to get off to the side. But Jarvis gets about 40 feet further than Johnny Walker, but still needs the spectators to help him up. You can see how steep it is. The guys can barely stand up. They're using the roots. They're using a human chain. Anything that they can do to get that bike up the hill.
Nice effort, Graham Jarvis. Toughest obstacle out of the way. And now he just rides to the finish to claim second. Can't say enough about this young man, Wade Young. What a performance. In only his second appearance at Romaniacs, while Jarvis rides to the line.
So many emotions going through Jarvis's head, so many mistakes that he wished he could have changed, but right now he's rolling in second place. He should be very, very proud. He's done an awesome job.
And Romaniacs for 2014 is over for Graham Jarvis.
Big smile on his face. He has nothing to be ashamed of. This man has rode spectacular all 4 days.
Let's see how Wade Young tackles the final climb.
Smell.
Wade with a slightly different technique. He rolls up slow and then gains his speed on the first third of the hill and actually looks phenomenal. He loses a little traction there, but notice how he can use both of his feet. Having that size definitely helped him. He made it about the same distance as Jarvis. Definitely helped him be a little more secure having those long legs.
How would you attack it? Would you be faster at the beginning or do what Wade Young did?
I would sit right here in the announcer booth with you and talk about it. But if I did it when I was younger and more aggressive, I would probably carry more momentum at the bottom.
Okay, guys, here comes Paul, eh?
Paul Bolton. It's been a gutsy performance from the British rider as well. And fourth place looks a certainty for him, so long as he clears this final obstacle.
A little loose at the beginning, but carrying more speed than the other riders. But this has been a difficult spot because it goes past vertical. And you can see he gets stuck at the same place that Johnny Walker got stuck.
With the top three riders now into the finish, let's go down to Tina Dixon in the winner's circle with Johnny Walker.
Third year is the charm for Johnny Walker. And Johnny, a huge congratulations. At what point in the race did you know, all right, this is my year to win this?
Thank you. I don't know really, from the start coming here, winning Erzberg a few months ago, I felt good, so I did the training beforehand and, I was feeling good all week, so I didn't really doubt myself, to be honest.
How much time did you and Graham spend on the trail together?
I'm not sure. I think it's close to like 20 hours, and going into this morning, I'm sure there was like 13 seconds difference, so that was after 15 hours, so definitely tough racing.
And you've had your share of wins, including this one now, and also the hare scramble. Put into perspective this race, though, a 4-day rally.
I've got to be honest, this is probably one of the best wins I've had, Like 4 days of getting up at 4:35 in the morning, it definitely takes its toll on the body, and I'll need a good night's sleep when I go home.
Well, enjoy this win for now. Congratulations.
Thank you.
All right, guys.
A very impressive performance by the biggest rising stars in the sport of hard enduro.
And Ricky, now that we have a winner, we also have your Red Bull signature moment.
At an event like Romaniacs, it's not enough to be tough, it's not enough to be talented, and it's not enough to be fast. You have to have the right mindset to make it to the finish. No matter how good you are, mistakes are going to be made. It's what are you going to do when you make those mistakes. Johnny Walker made a huge mistake, flooding his bike out, but he did not give up at any moment. He pulled the bike apart, turned it upside down, drained all the water out of the crankcase and the motor, got everything up and going, had to use the Kickstarter to get it rolling, and off he goes. Focusing on the job at hand, Johnny showed a lot of maturity and he did not fall victim of making more and more mistakes. He stayed consistent the rest of the way, held his main competitor, Graham Jarvis, in sight, had some great racing going back and forth, and leaves this year the Romaniacs champion. And that's why Johnny Walker wins this Red Bull signature moment.
All the big names are at the finish. Some autographs and some interviews, especially Graham Jarvis. Here's Tina.
Graham, how would you sum up your time on the bike this year?
Well, second wasn't what result I wanted, but considering how fast Johnny was going, I've got to be happy with it. There's no shame in coming second to him.
And you guys seem to be following each other at one point, is that correct?
Yeah, once we was riding together, it's difficult for either of us to gain any time. We were riding at a similar speed, but he just seemed to have the edge on me, made less mistakes, and it just seemed to have the edge on me all week really.
All right, and then moving forward, what can we plan for Romaniacs 2015?
Well, I'm going to have to go away and try and find some speed and try and find something else for next year to just try and catch up with him.
Thanks for your time. Great to see you out here, and congrats on the podium. All right, guys.
Tina, thank you. What a year for Johnny Walker. Not only winning Red Bull Hare Scramble, he wins his very Romaniacs. Graham Jarvis, we just heard from, and Wade Young on the podium. Bolton fourth, Letton Bickler fights all the way to finish fifth. Sal?
Thanks you guys for hanging out and watching Romaniacs from here in Sibiu, Romania. Transylvania has claimed its fair share of victims in the past, but in this case, it's as a direct result of these brave riders pushing themselves over the past 4 days in this grueling event. Congratulations to Johnny Walker getting the win, as well as Graham Jarvis and Wade Young rounding out the podium. And maximum respect again to all of these competitors that took on this, the world's toughest hard enduro rally. I'm Sal Masekela, and I will see you next time.